I'm Gogo Lerato. I'm Gogo Kanda Lembube. And my hair is white. Decided to try a different look. A bit of also another controversial topic today. A great suggestion from Kindred Spirit. Let me say that. It's a wonderful suggestion from a kindred spirit. And in as much as I wanted to do amabai and what they mean and all of that, I felt that this topic is going to sort of wrap up also the foundations. It spoke so much to the questions that I've been getting. It spoke so much to readings that I've been doing recently. And I just think it'll be a great difference in perspective about a lot of things. I hope it's going to help you guys. I hope it's going to teach you. All right. Arapatli. Lesedi bonkgolo bontatemolo ba makubetse ba mtjali ba bogatse ba gotlo. Ke le bitsa bonkgolo bontatemolo gotlong tsene tsa lefatse bonkgolo bontatemolo ke nna ngwana le ke khanda lembobe. Bonkgolo bontatemolo ke go be lena le tla bua le gantse ditsela. Ke go be lena le tla etela bana ba lona pele. Ke mema ka ofela manyelo e gotlong tsene tsa lefatse. Manyelo a bohle ba shebileng. Manyelo a bohle ba ntse bang bohle ba kopaneng le nna ka moya kampong ka nama ka lebitso la le matla Jesu Kriste. Amen. Thokozani, it's Monday. It's Monday. And I know my hair looks like it can say a halo, but let's just forget about it, all right? Let's just get on with today's teaching. So the teaching is basically about the law of attraction, right? The lady who actually suggested that we talk about it, she showed me a picture of The Secret. And it was just great because I have read it a few years ago. So I kind of knew what she wanted to, what she wanted us to discuss. I do feel it's a bit of it's got many complexities, but we're going to try to make it simple. All right. Firstly, before I do that, I did not finish my topic yesterday last week on amagedla abagedlelayo ngesintu, right? So I'm going to brush through that quick. We've already spoken about the prophetic amagedla, and I feel most of them are more towards the prophetic side because of, the fact that no one tells them when must they get imitiable, but they are able to perceive it. So it's mainly through intuition, right? And it's mainly through intuition that they get this gift, right? Ancestrally, it's actually the same way. It's the same concept. The only thing is that through his prophet, we would say ngumnikazi or isithunywa that mainly functions. By the way, isithunywa will always be there, whether you are umgoma or prophet, right? So definitely isithunywa is not the question, right? We would definitely say the difference would be between umnikazi wasemanzini nomdawe, who actually also is a water spirit or primarily enjoys being in water spaces. So that's where they would be able to take their gift, right? They would be able now to use, they would be able to foresee ditaola tsa bone. They would be able to dream of their bones and what they mean. They would be able to dream and be told of plants and how to use them. Amagedla mainly were seen to, I believe they are the people who wrote our books or who wrote our recipes for ukulapa, right? A wonderful example that I want to give of amagedla, it's from a Faraday. Faraday is actually a bunch of amagedla, right? Sitting together and making money from their work, right? Because you go there, you could literally ask for anything, a Faraday, right? Or you could ask them for a specific plant, right? So obviously, I think it's also with connecting with imithi yabo and spending so much time with them that it's either through experience or through the calling. But I feel it is through the calling that they connect with their plants. So you go to Faraday, Thokozani, can I ask everyone, Whenever we go to Faraday, if uyinyanga, try to put on a cloth, sign, please. Right? Because those people, kidingaka, they are not just sitting there. It's not a business for them. Right? Which leads us now to the law of attraction. Right? A great example is that go Faraday, kidingaka, those people, and they're deriving income from what they do, from Idlozi labo, being fully functional. They're exercising and practicing what Idlozi labo has shown them, either through intuition or through study or through knowledge, but they're able to make money from that, right? And I believe that's primarily why we've always been so interested in the law of attraction. I think that Mkulu Ernest, I love that question, and hopefully we're going to get to it. So this class on the law of attraction is actually going to go in 3 parts. It's going to be today, next week, and the week after. We might drag it for longer because there's a lot more, and I know that there's a lot of questions, but okay, let me not fiff around. Let me get to it. So the law of attraction from the book The Secret, when I read it, it says that our thoughts become what we say, and that those become things. So the thought process is what you perceive, what you think. And I know that visualizations, thinking about how things, the type of life we want, visualizing things, that's a main concept, right? We are able to manifest things, right? The law of attraction teaches us through the power of the mind, or rather through the power of our souls and what we truly desire. It teaches us now to cultivate our wishes, our desires from that pool of energy, right? Why is it that we are able to do that? Well, it's simple. The law of attraction, just like Isonto, we sing the same hymn, right? So whatever we would want to manifest, according to the law of attraction, A, is something that's there already, right? So if you want money, if you want better health, it's an ideology of some sort. And, if it's a new cars, whatever, a better job, we want to manifest these things that are already there, right? So we actually want, from the African Ngaka perspective, whatever that you wish for, ubatla taula, right? Ubatla taula. Because like I've explained before, taula is a brand, right? Taula is a particular way to identify something, right? So I want to just park that there a bit and start and go back to my analogy that I always start my stories with, that God decided to differentiate itself into all of us, right? And the reason why I've started all of my stories from day one with this was actually I was preparing for conversations like this, like the law of attraction. So, what does this have to do with Idlozi, right? Because, when you find out, by the time you find out what Idlozi or a spiritual calling, things are very far from manifesting what you want, right? And the biggest lesson with regard to the law of attraction I got to learn last year when I lost over 130,000 due to the COVID. So I know that that's what the book says, right? However, and I believe the book actually says that we should always look at the sponsoring thought. Now, what is that? What is a sponsoring thought? If you want imali, what do you want to do with that money? If you want better health, what is you living extra on earth doing for you? If you want house, marriage, what do those things do for you? That is generally our understanding of the law of attraction. Things that we acquire or things that we desire, that will enable us, or they will do certain things for us. But I think that is a big flaw in our understanding of the law of attraction, right? However, today we're just going to go with the law of attraction and how we begin our spiritual callings with that. Many times people will say to me, I don't know if I'm gifted. Well, and my answer is always, if you are connected, or if you connected with anything esoteric, anything metaphysical, whether it was through videos of Idlozi, whether it was through reading about the law of attraction, whether it was through numerology, most of the time, Idlozi, we attract Idlozi lethu. How? How? If you remember my analogy, I said that God differentiates itself. So each of us, when we came to this world, we were attracted to the experience of being in this life at this time. What we also did from a spirit realm place was attract the family that we will belong to, right? And they attracted us back, right? And that will interpret also who the Idlozi would be. In as much as we could really say, through reincarnation, perhaps you are the same person coming back in different lifetimes. Maybe within the same family, maybe not. But it really doesn't make a difference, right? Because what reincarnation says is that whatever you did not complete in this life, whatever life lessons you didn't get to, whatever archetypes you didn't get to break down, you will continue to do that in your next life. And we can choose from a spirit level any family, any background, right, that we want, that will advance our purpose. So we are attracted to Idlozi lethu from the word chucks. And Idlozi lethu is attracted to us. By the time you find out that you've got a spiritual calling and things are chaotic, you have been calling forward this Idlozi to come. And maybe not directly or intentionally the way that we know, but by virtue of your purpose, the life work that you filled in on your application form, as God differentiating itself to come here to experience, the life force, the life purpose is what attracted Idlozi lakho. And it was Idlozi lakho that was attracted to that life purpose. So there's a lot of attraction going on that we're not aware of. We know attraction in terms of relationships, right? And it's not only that. Yes, we are attracted to the relationship, to the partner. But if you think about it, it's not the partner that attracts us. It's the actual relationship, right? So let me say it like this. My good friend, Ratisitwe, she and I went to preschool together. I don't know, like we've probably been playing together for a long time. We went to primary and high school together, right? And what I found was, when my spiritual calling opened, I started to see her in a different light. I started to see the songs that we used to sing at school. By the way, my friend Ratisitwe's got a beautiful, charismatic church voice. I'm telling you, she can sing for days. And this was the bulk of primary and high school. And when I came back from Ephetweni, the first part, I started to dream of my friend wearing white clothes. I couldn't get it. What started to happen was that I realized, as my spiritual gift was awakening, not just her, all of my friends, everyone around me, everyone that I had started meeting up, even people that I felt I met by chance, even the people who broke my heart, I started to realize what they were giving to me from a spiritual level. So they were all my angels all along. And I attracted them so that I would be able one day to maybe intercept into their gift. But they attracted me too, because that was how they were able to channel my gift. See, we always say this to people, that you are born ngaka, right? To twasa is mainly to unravel the mystery behind your forgetting that ungaka, right? That's it. However, your entire life, everybody that you have attracted and that has attracted you has been purging you and training you towards this. Okay, now here's a hiccup. I said that our biggest challenge with our spirituality is that we have been culturalized into the system, right? A system that takes us away from who we truly are. We say that a lot. A system that deviates from Idlozi, right? The way that we imagine, but actually not. We think that Mudimu works only from a spiritual place, but actually not. And the proof is when you look at, let's say, the Holy Trinity. Why would God really need to divide itself into three parts? Why is the human being in three parts? Body, mind, spirit, right? Why is it like that? And if you also look at each of our relationships, let me give a good analogy. I'm Lerato, Ratiswe is Ratisitwe. But the two of us were attracted to Ratisitwe and Lerato combination together. Because that part is the spirit part of both of us, of our union, that has brought us together to further what we need to do and to benefit us mutually. Sometimes mutually exclusive, sometimes symbiotically. Let me wait. Kadi symbiosis. Biology fading. Sometimes we benefit each other through the friendship, favor. Sometimes it's through the love. Sometimes it's simply that we will be together and part. However, Ratisitwe le Lerato, arereke le ratisitswe, let's call us that. Me le ratisitswe will forever remain in the spirit world. Le ratisitswe was called forward by Lerato and Ratisitswe from a spirit realm place. We just were not able to remember until a certain point when Le Ratisitswe attracted us. She and I could have gone to play with different girls, but we didn't. We chose to play together, right? She and I, the universe could have separated me and her, and we could have gone to different schools, but we didn't. It does not mean that Le Ratisitswe is flawed, by the way. Le Ratisitswe is perfect. The union, the core forward, the God in us, the God between Le Ratisitswe is perfect. However, Lerato, Le Ratisitswe, we fight a lot. We fight, right? And when we feel like we do not need to talk to each other anymore, Le Ratisitswe, until our union has resolved its purpose, Le Ratisitswe Le Lerato will keep on coming together. That union is like a completely separate entity. So it will never cease to exist, by the way, whether me and her die. That union, let's say, it's stored in the memory of heaven. You know, I hear we talk about God writing in the book of deeds. Le Ratisitswe will be what is in that book, and not Lerato separately and Ratisitswe separately. So we attract each other from that point of view, right? And that makes our connection so powerful as people, right? Now, we believe that the law of attraction, like I said, is about manifesting things. Actually, not things. not things. And this is the bad news, guys. Like, I was also bummed. You know, after I read The Secret, I had my vision boards and everything. I had them going, right? And it was simply not working. I have been, let's talk positive. Let's do this. And I think sometimes we want to apply that concept, especially Idlozi. The problem is this. In as much as we've got the law of attraction, maybe say moving in a linear way forward, there is what we also call, I call it that, I don't know if that's the proper term, we call it the opposite law of manifestation. Whoa, what's that? What's that? The long and short of it is that if God creates itself as a woman, then God will create itself as a man. Every law, and I love Newton when he says this, that every force will push each other equally in an opposite direction. The law of attraction has got its inverse, by the way. And the inverse will always yield the benefit of what you wanted to manifest to begin with. I know what I'm saying is crazy. I know. Let me give you guys a brilliant idea, a brilliant analogy from the Bible. Jesus spoke that he's going to die, right, on the cross. But he was never speaking about all of these different laws, right? What he did though was that he would say, I will die that you might have life. Like, is that an oxymoron or what? What is that? How does that make sense, right? And the guy who was on the cross with him, who said, you know, if you're the Son of God, save yourself. That guy was looking at life from a forward motion of the law of attraction, right? Because it only makes sense, right? Save yourself now. I mean, save yourself and then you can go through 10,000 years or 100 years and go around teaching the gospel. You don't really need to die. But in the Bible, we look at that guy as the demon, right? He's the dude who's like a shut up, right? That guy was representing how we are programmed to think about things, right? If wena ule moramudim, oko yetse morbon. That's basically the concept. If na I can think positively, I will manifest this. If na I can act in a particular way, I will manifest this. We have such a linear way of looking at life, and that is the biggest problem, right? And here's where the problem begins. You know, here we are reading about the law of attraction. Next thing, Idlozi comes in, right? By then, your life is messed up, right? Because either you've gone through ubungoma, pre-bungoma phases, induction, ya bungoma, or you've gone through induction, ya sporofit, and both of them are going to leave you damaged, right? No amount of visualization will be able to get you out of that. The only thing that remains, Kiyondao spirit, right? The only thing that remains, Kiyondao spirit. So you start to see chaos around you, and you see the man that you loved, you know, is disappointing you. You get broke. You get all these things. You try to pray, right? Because, you know, you call her Larat and then she says, no, just pray. You try to pray, but the mashonista that you owe is not going anywhere, all right? You try to pray, but you don't have money for a candle. You try to pray, but, you know, you've had so many abortions and you cannot afford a cleansing. You've tried to pray, but. And eventually, you are jobless for in my case, many years. And then you sit down, you say, but, nah, man. This prayer thing is nonsense. It is actually this point where we confuse the law of attraction. And I saw Mkuli was saying I didn't speak about the law of resonance. Where we confuse that and the law of inverse attraction. Right? And why is it that then there must be a law of inverse attraction? Maybe I must tell you guys what I think it is. The law of attraction says that you can manifest whatever you like. Perfect. We get that, right? But most of the time, the things that we want to manifest are sponsored by another emotion. They are driven by something else. If you want money, is your money going to give you the looks that will make you look okay to yourself in the mirror? Because you have cultivated these looks for so long, right? Now, emotionally, you have been so badly broken, or you are on the way, right? You are going through your induction. And we start to perceive the things outside as the things that reflect the inside. So we start to dress up. We start to be in a particular way. We start to do things in a particular way. And that's normally why we want money. If I were to ask you now, okay, Kenya application go mudimo, or why about R1 million, and what you're going to do with it? Most of us are going to say, I'm going to be so good to our parents. I'm going to take care of the people. Go get a king. We love this one. I love this one. My church, they're going to get a big chunk. I'm going to open a shelter, a home. I'm going to help the homeless. Those are normally the reasons that we like to place, right? However, it's not like that. Actually, the answer should be, what will you do with your money? Most of the time, when we ask that question at that time, we simply don't know. We don't want to say, I want to take that money, I blew it a few months down the line. We don't want to say that, right? Because it just doesn't look like something you would want to tell God if you're making an application for R1 million. We don't want to say that I want to try destructive behavior. Maybe that's what we really feel would express us. We don't want to say, I would be sitting, and I know I'm just using very bad examples here, but I'm trying to actually make a point here. We don't want to say, I'd spend my money as a guy, I actually like girls who strip on the table and they twerk. That's what I want. So that's the thing though. The purpose of why we require things is normally the problem with us manifesting things. Because money becomes a symbol of something. So Idlozi is there to break the symbolism. Idlozi is there to break the archetype. Idlozi is there to break your mental construct on A, what money is, and B, what it can do. Right? So that is why we experience negative attraction forces. And that is why Idlozi actually starts us there. Right? Let me tell you guys, with me, the week before my Gobela to be arrived, or rather the thing that told me that I've got a spiritual gift was when I sat on my couch at 2 a.m. and heard like a voice telling me where the rope to hang myself is. And that voice said, I'm going to show you how to do it. Why don't you end this misery? That was really my turning point. That voice was so strong, and for the first time, That voice said what I have been trying to say for years. Actually, it looked clear as daylight. So people who commit suicide, we've got our own judgments about what we think they're going through, but one day I'll teach about that, and you're going to realize, no, it's not like that at all, actually. And it was after I sat contemplating and talking to this voice that the same voice, my first prophetic vision, was when this voice showed me the facial expression of my children when they see me dead at 5:30 in the morning. And I prayed. I cried a lot, right? So what that voice did, again, applied the law of negative attraction. But maybe it's not negative. In a way, I had been attracting that. I just did not know how to put it in words. I knew that I was suffering, but I didn't know from what, right? I knew that something's not right. I didn't know from what. I didn't know why. I just knew that, look, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be living like this, you know. And it would always sound so superficial when I'd say to people, I should be rich. And when I heard that voice, it was like for the first time I realized that the ideas of who I thought I was, the ideas of what I wanted, let me say that, and which translate into who I thought I was, they were completely flawed. So death became the only option, right? Because now I had been afraid to live for so long. My idea of living was beginning at a certain time, right? When I have that, this, then the law of attraction on its own is pure, right? And Jesus used it. However, Idlozi likes to expose us to the law of negative attraction. Why? Because sometimes if you don't know, most of the time, when you don't know your purpose, when you don't know your life's work, when you don't understand the importance, the gravity of the spirit that God has put in you, when you don't understand the gravity and the love of Idlozi around you, you start to believe that you're alone, right? And fundamentally, that is a problem, because this entire universe of people, we are all walking around as facial expressions of you. We are all one God, right? So to singularly think that your purpose, your life work is about you, that's the beginning of the problem with the law of attraction, right? Books will say you can manifest, and they will say you must realize that you are connected to the universe at large, and that, you know, this connection, this interconnectedness is what will make your things manifest. It's true. However, I think it doesn't go into detail, or it's not clear. The reality is that you should know that everything around you is you. And you should know your life purpose. More so, you should know that your life is not about you. And this we really struggle with. No one's life is about them. We are all just here. We are walking life purposes. I always say to people, you know, when we come here, it's like, go jiga magic. I don't know if you guys remember that show. Rent a big circle. God has created a big circle with itself. And we are all given turns. How it's jaifa? It was great. You lived your moment in the present, right? We can never manifest anything when we step outside of a present moment. And that is also a thing, is also a problem for us, especially when purpose is not clearly defined, right? We identify our minds, the system. We systematically think a purpose is a thing that unfolds itself over time. It's true, but it's also not true. We systematically look towards the future for purpose. The law of manifesting, the law of attraction, speaks about a future event. It speaks about you manifesting through your whatever, your visualizations and all of that. It speaks about you manifesting what you do tomorrow or at a future moment. Now the question becomes, what if you die now? You know, you were busy got your vision board. Then ushwil. What if you die? Does that mean that your visualizations were useless? Maybe. Maybe you wanted to attract the wrong thing. Right? Maybe you wanted to attract money. But Leone with death, I will say, death, we attract it. It attracts us, we attract it. Everything's about the law of attraction. Right? So Idlozi comes in and becomes that negative opposite force. Why? That is what your Ndao spirit likes to do. I've spoken about this. Ndao spirits like to embarrass us and make us miserable. Why? It is only from a place of misery that A, you realize what you don't want for yourself. B, you realize now, the moment you say what you don't want for yourself, it also extends to other people. Right? Now it's the law of Jesus. Do unto thyself as you would like them to do unto you. Basically that. Sheba wena, and then we'll check your brother, your brother's keeper. The law of attraction, I mean the inverse law of attraction from Idlozi perspective, Moso Umdao now says, let us focus on what you don't want. Because most of us, when we go into our spiritual callings, we lack a sense of identity. I spoke about this. And a lack of, or we lack the ability, if you're Umgoma, to expedite or express yourself. Right? And both of them actually are like components to one thing. Identity and expression of the self. Right? Expression of the self would be what the soul does. And identity would be how the spirit connects to the soul. And, an expression would be how the soul connects itself to the body. How the world is seen. It sees you. Right? So, now, if you don't realize that, then what Idlozi then does is they say, okay, because honali an issue between these two, and these are fundamental, right? These are fundamental. Let us now start to make a map on the things that this person doesn't want. That's the law of negative attraction. You attract the boyfriend who's going to break the living daylights out of your heart. You will attract poverty at that time. Because wealth has to be a thing that comes from the spirit. And it is through your calling that you will realize that wealth and abundance is something that you don't necessarily need to attract. Right? And you will lose some. You go to Lefetlo, geez, it's the wrong place. You know, Gobela, Kimului, long story. The first bit, especially when we are twassing, I would say for the first year or two, as we are going through Ipetlo and the initial Lefetlo, we must go through severe negative attraction. We must. Because this is how the Idlozi can cultivate your purpose. Right? Purpose, by the way, is a thing that is chosen in a current moment of now. However, right, we are not able to see it. Why? Purpose is like the day. The sun is up today, goes down late. Tomorrow, same thing, right? It's so easy for us, especially with regard to our purpose, to say tomorrow the sun's coming up again. We've become so complacent. However, purpose is a daily effort. That is why ukuphahla nokuthandaza is a daily effort. Gahle gahle. When you phahla and you pray, you are only cultivating your sense of purpose. We will say that you are connecting with Idlozi. Of course you will connect with Idlozi. Because now you are saying, for today, I'm willing to routinely work towards my inner being. I don't have money. It doesn't cost us anything. It doesn't cost us anything to pray. Right? And normally it comes to us when we've got nothing more to give. Right? By then, like I've said, our spirit has taken everything out and made you realize that you are empty. Right? Manifesting on its own does not solve the issue of the true God. And that is why the true God never allows us to manifest anything that speaks directly outside of who he, she is in us. Let me say that closer. Let me bring it home. You can never manifest anything unless you know who you are. And knowing is breaking down the ego. Knowing is going through immense adversity. Knowing is not about looking great. That is why you gotta walk barefoot. That is why you are sleeping on the floors. What they're actually trying to do, is they're trying to kill the body and the ego. Right? However, I think maybe it's because of the practice, how it's always been. They don't understand to bring you to a place of knowing. And I'd like to learn something. When you struggle with knowing yourself and your purpose, everything looks like a challenge. The majority of our questions that I'm so confused are actually coming from there. It is having such deviation from the true creation that God had created you to be, from the differentiation of the absolute God. It is such deviation from that into a system that was meant to aid you and to cultivate what you want to do, to a point that now you need to make sense of things. And because things don't make sense, you feel like you don't have the connection. Can I tell most people that struggle with their dreams? The moment you start to panic about your dreams, that's when they go away. How's that for the law of attraction? Right? How's that for the law of attraction? So if you want your dreams to come, light up a candle, send a love letter, Idlozi, and say, hi guys, I can't wait to see y'all. If they don't come, don't be disappointed. When they do, they're going to bring you some serious goods. Right? So part 1 today is forming, let me say, the foundation for the law of attraction, but also saying it as the law of inverse attraction, where you attract bad energy, like his nyama. You seem to walk into his nyama and his trito and all of that. Those are all important. And it is your endowed spirit that does this. Up and until to a point where you feel you need to die. Why? Umdao uyabulawa. You need to die so that there is a resurrection. Right? That's the whole point of Jesus' story. Right? So by the time you're struggling and you feel suicidal, do remember that all that is happening is that God is basically, or Idlozi lakho, likhambisa ngikhanda on the floor. They need you to do that. Let me give you guys something very interesting, and we know this from science. I love to use science. They say that Dibrelli, every lens, a camera lens, it works upside down. It takes that picture and makes it face downwards, and then to your eye, makes it face up again. So actually, what we can learn from the cameras and ultimately our eye is that the inverse, right, is equally opposite of whatever that you see is positive. Yin and yang, we go back to that. They've got to be equally opposite, and equally in opposite. They must be. However, it doesn't matter how bad the result in a current moment looks, right? The view is correct. The view is correct. Why? Because everything is created by the Creator in itself, for itself, right? And ultimately, the law of the absolute, in the realm of the absolute, only love exists. So it doesn't matter, Hore, how many cupboards do you hit with your head. The law of the absolute always comes back to love. Now I'm going to tell you guys a personal and a very painful story of how I learned this. My mother was married to her husband for 17 years. And in 2017, her husband slashed my mother and murdered her, basically, at a neighbor's house. It was terrible. I thought I would lose my mind. And what made it worse was that when we went to the neighbor's house, the neighbor said that this man basically attacked her. She had gone there to ask for help. And they said that she could sleep the night or whatever, because I was already here in Tabazimbi. So he went and then he attacked her at the neighbor's house and slit her throat there, basically, after punching her around 15 holes. You know, it was just the most terrible thing, because the neighbor was in such a state, and she said to me, she came running with pools of blood in her mouth, on her hands. And as she tried to open the door to get help, I pushed her out. I couldn't have blood in my house. So she tried to run to the street, and that's where she tripped on her blood. This is just terrible. And she fell. So I think the gravity of this situation for me was also Endow's spirit turnaround moment. Because my mind could simply or physically not grasp this. It had been years, I told her. Eventually we started joking about it. Because I used to tell her, this guy's going to kill you. And eventually, he did. Let me tell you something that was even more interesting. My mother and I used to make a joke. This was something that I read many years ago. That the day that you're born is very dangerous, because you can die on that day. And we used to joke about this every year on her birthday. And I would say to her, I'm so glad you're alive this year, birthday. Because, birthdays are dangerous. You can die. And she got killed on her birthday weekend. So, here's what happened. For a year, I went on and I was mentally unstable. And it was terrible. I've never gone through anything that painful in my entire life. Right? And I'd lost my mind, basically. One day, after a year of being afraid to go out, being afraid to stay in, on my way home, I heard a voice that said to me, the answer to death is silence. I thought to myself, okay, well, what could that mean? I directly interpreted that voice to say, go balabala ka pelo is not going to help me. What I actually need is to silence my inner voice, my inner pain, my inner mental constructs, because I felt guilty that had I pushed, because a few weeks before her birthday, I was phoning her all the time to come and visit me. Had I physically driven there to fetch her, she'd be alive. See, death always does that, by the way. Right? That's why death is so symbolic of endowed spirit. And I had created so many mental scenarios of how things should have turned out differently. Right? But I forgot one thing. The law of attraction. The law of attraction. It was much later that I realized that despite anybody's efforts, she would have been attracted to that situation. Now, let me tell you guys where it gets really ugly. A year after my mother's death, she comes to my husband and tells him that I must go to her house. And I said, there's no way. I'm not going to sit and watch your murderer in the eyes. And again, I felt trapped. I've got to do this. And I remember when I went there, that is where my healing began. I sat there in tears, and it was something that I said in that moment. And I said to him, I realized that you did not mean to kill her. I believe I lied at that time, and I'm sure that guy thought I'm lying, right? But I was giving a universal answer to myself. Here's what my mother came back to tell me when I came back from her house. That we attract things at a smaller scale, and then the scale gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And by the time we realize that somebody needs help, they've killed a person, or they have been killed. That attraction between them from a universal place was them honoring each other's agreement to help each other with something and to help each other with death. What is very funny, my mother died the beginning of, I think it was 2011, and the husband died towards the end, 2019. So they both died in that era, in that decade, right? And when they died in that decade, I heard a lot of stories about that guy, that he was having sleepless nights and things like that. And he was acting up. He was mentally unstable. So do you see? She paid him back for what he did to her. However, he requested her from a universal level to help him to kill himself. Because now the gravity of what he had done, he couldn't deal with it. In the end, this guy and this woman were two people trapped in the attraction of many small cycles that were left unattended, right? Many small cycles that were not broken, which created now, like I said, they had now that thing that they started to walk towards. They started to even work towards it. The day they saw each other, and this was the craziest thing, the day they met each other, they started to walk this journey together. Right? Okay, am I saying abuse is right? Definitely not. I'm saying that it's the reason why Idlozi must intercept and take away your money, your finances, everything that gives you a sense of self. If it's not coming from the true self, then Idlozi will do this to keep you alive, right? And ultimately, to help you to walk out of situations that no longer serve you. And the only way to do that is to break karmic debt, right? And the only way to break karmic debt is to suffer the thing that you most want, so that the inner you, the true purpose of God, can be cultivated. Right? I'm not saying that my mother and her husband didn't have purpose. I'm saying that the individual God in man, the individuations of themselves, had started to view one another in such a separate way that neither one of them wanted to live. It turned out, as I was shown by Idlozi, the man was from an abusive family. He actually saw his mother go through that. What other choice as a soul did he have but to act out in that way? Had my mother left, that could have been the thing that pushes him to get help. Or he could have continued and maybe killed someone else. There could have been many things that could have happened, but it was the sequence of events and how this karmic connection brought them together. And to them, it was like love and hate, but it's because to them, neither one of them had dealt with the issues of the inner being, the inner man. So, on a bit of a sad note, I don't cry a lot about it, though I mourn in my heart. My heart is no, right? However, I no longer have the tears because I realized that she was a typical example of many women. He was a typical example of many people. And sometimes, from a spirit level, we don't look at people correctly. It could have been easy for us to call him a monster. And I felt that way, right? We're all human. I get Jesus. However, I remember a few years ago saying to my grandmother, how proud of this man would his church members be if he sat in church and he confessed that he used to be a murderer, but he has changed. And I said to my grandmother, those people would worship and praise God for his deliverance. And I said to her, do we expect the deliverance not to come to him? Because it's our mother that's been murdered. Jails are full of people that have killed, right? There's so many things happening. They get rehabilitated. When we see them in our churches, in our sacred spaces, in our ndumbas, we are okay to cleanse them because we believe that they deserve a second chance. And I said to my mom, my grandmother, that if he was at another church where they don't know us, his repentance would be a sign of God's great deeds. And I said to her, I feel that God would forgive him. And I feel that our mother would forgive him too. And maybe this was supposed to be the one thing that intercepts and stops his life. There are people who have had Idlozi and they have car accidents and they kill people. Right? Does that mean that they are less holy? So sometimes, the law of attraction, it needs to work in an inverse, especially when dealing with the fundamentals. So, I've gone on and on. Right? Let's pick this up next week. And how now to start to use the law of attraction to positively be able to manifest things. I'm going to speak about that. Leone, little porrecha, because now I'm going to tell you guys the reality behind it. Thokozani, have a great evening. It was great to be with you guys. Thokozani.